Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time, as always. And on behalf of Dropbox Business and Clipchamp, welcome to today's event. This is a really exciting one. I really like the title. Simple, always a lot of change, Emerging Leaders Series, Collaboration for Creatives. So my name's Matt Egan. I'm the Editorial Director at Innovatus Media. And I've got the exciting job of walking through this really cool content with some really good experts that'll be tackling it from a variety of different angles. So I certainly do hope you enjoy it. Before we kick off, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional landowners on which this event's actually been produced. So I'm in the beautiful Sydney, so the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present, as well as any elders or emerging leaders that might be with us online. So, guys, it's March 2021. I had to think about that, but I'm sure that we've tipped in and out of a lot of digital events. So a little bit about logistics. Best way to enjoy yourself is to turn off your email, put your phone on silent, and jump in, get involved in the content. And also, it's all web-based today. So if you're having any audio issues or any lag, just refresh the browser, and that should fix it all up. Secondary to that, I do have a colleague, Simon, with me, who's just keeping an eye on the chat. So if you have any sort of technical issues throughout, please let us know. Before I go to introduce the presenters and roll on with the content, I would actually like to dangle a carrot. So there is a ways which you can ask questions throughout this session. So you can do it over the public chat or via the Q&A poll. We love questions. Andy, actually, it's almost midnight in the UK, but I really want to stress him out with a really curly question that'll keep him up all night. So to do that, we're going to put up a $150 voucher to a local restaurant of your choice. So if you're in Sydney, you might want to go to Aria or Chin Chin's in Melbourne. I was just talking about for any of the Brisbane folk, Walter's Steakhouse, got the steak there. So whoever asked the best question, we'll be able to reach out and make sure we can arrange a nice lunch or a dinner for you. So on that note, I'll do a bit of an introduction of some of the guests that we have today. As I mentioned, Andy Wilson, so he's the media director of Dropbox. Andy, good evening, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me, Matt. Really appreciate that.
And also we've got Alex Dreiling, so he's the CEO and co-founder of Clipchamp. G'day, Alex.
Thanks, Matt. Very glad to be here.
And super excited because we've actually got an executive who's on the ground using some of this really cool technology in Beck Pini. So she's the managing director at M4M. So Beck, big thanks for coming on and contributing to the session.
Pleasure.
Awesome. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Collaboration for creatives. Certainly a very interesting time for anybody that's in this space. And there's so many different challenges and competing priorities. And I think that the whole idea for this session is to really try and get you to think differently about the process and about the workflow in which you and your team or your agencies might be using. So to do that, I thought we'd kick off and just find a little bit more out about Clipchamp and Dropbox and what they're doing in this space. So, Alex, I'll bring you in. Do you want to just walk through Clipchamp's development and sort of how you got to where you are today and your role in this space?
Yeah, that's a fun story. So Clipchamp's the world's first and only fully in-browser video editing platform. We've been around for about 3 years with Clipchamp Create. Beforehand, we built more video utilities. The story started, however, completely in a different way. We wanted to build back then the biggest distributed supercomputer in the world. And that was something that was, a challenging endeavor to pull off, like a three-sided market. We had this grand plan, and actually, to this day, I believe this could work. It was just like, we were too small and too early. We took this idea to early stage investors, talked to them about supercomputing. They called it malware. And we went like, okay, well, this is going to be more complicated than we thought. Anyways, we had built for a year we had built video technology that we could run in browser. And out of that, we abandoned this initial idea, wrapped it all into a platform called transcodecentral.com. and no one came. I don't think it was because of the name, but so we kind of then renamed it to Clipchamp. We thought, like, this is more catchy, it's easier, you know, people will now come, and they didn't. And then we put it into the Google Chrome Web Store, and all of a sudden, you know, some teacher in the US tells us we've solved a big problem, which is webcam recording on Chromebooks. And we're like, really? We didn't even know. But this is because we built all this supercomputing client-side technology. And, you know, we went down to a store here in Brisbane, you know, grabbed a Chromebook, went to clipchamp.com, and it worked. And we're like, yeah, we've solved it. How good is that? And so, you know, that teacher told many others, and all of a sudden in the US, we had tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands of users. And this is how it then, from then it became a listening exercise. So people wanted to do more editing, put more filters on, transitions, put clips together. And we're like, okay, well, that's video editing. Let's do it properly. And that journey then started 3 years ago. So Clipchamp as it exists today is about 3 years old. But yeah, it's been a story of listening and pivoting.
Yeah, you were definitely pivoting before it was cool, Alex. That's great. And Andy, you're sort of looking at this from a different perspective, but also slightly similar.
Yeah, absolutely. So hi, everybody. I'm Andy Wilson. I'm the Director for Media and New Product Solutions here at Dropbox. And I'm sure for a lot of you, you know Dropbox as that place that you trusted all your family photos to and kept them all in sync across your devices. And then what was really interesting for us was obviously those same users who trusted all their most precious photos of their children started taking us to work. They realized that if I can trust my pictures of my kids with you, I can probably trust those Word documents and some other stuff. And from that, we've kind of grown to this platform that's got over 600 million users. And today we're in over 500,000 businesses globally. So one of the really interesting things that came out of that, and why we're so excited to be working with Clipchamp, is that, you know, we've got some real strengths with creatives and creative businesses. And I think there's, you know, a real opportunity there for us and for businesses around the world who are really struggling to manage those kind of difficult, large to manage files, particularly video files, where you can use Dropbox and integrate into the tools that you want to get your work done, no matter where you are.
And Andy, I know we'll talk about it a bit later, but I always like to hear the history of your own career. Would have seen you working with similar technologies but different. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, so I used to work in feature film, and then I worked for the BBC for 17 years. So I've worked in kind of a lot of the big broadcast sectors, and now, yeah, I bring that expertise into Dropbox to make sure we can build tools that help creatives no matter where they are. I think it's a really important thing to look at how that market's evolving, and I think, you know, Clipchamp's a really exciting development in that space. I just wish it had been there when I was back at the BBC.
I can only imagine. Let's get a bit of a pulse of the audience. I'll put up a poll, just get a bit of a feel about where people are entering in this conversation. So the question is, what scale is your business? Are you a small marketing branded content agency, or a brand owner or business that works with external agencies, or a large marketing side, or do you come from a different area of expertise? Because obviously, you know, these sorts of skill sets, as we'll discuss, you know, rolling through different areas of the business. So I'll let that run through for a little bit. It's always good when polls are evenly shared. Things are kind of on point. It's pretty much so yeah, 25% small agency. We've got large agencies online, 25%. We've got other, probably sitting within organizations from the marketing and digital functions, and then some brand owners as well. So thanks for sharing that and putting that through. It's good to help us inform the discussion. It's always really exciting to hear sort of when companies have been developing, particularly in this space. I just can't believe Alex's story, you know, is kind of detached from the creative side of things, but then he sort of disrupted it. So, you know, with Clipchamp, it's 14 million users, and Dropbox over 600 million users. So for both organizations, you've got a great opportunity to sort of get a pulse for how people are collaborating and how they're driving creativity. I'll probably start with you, Andy. What trends are you seeing in this space?
I think it's been a really interesting time, actually, Matt. Not just the last year, actually. We've been watching the media space for about 3 years and really looking for some interesting early signs about how creatives have been changing the way that they've been working. Now, we first spotted this probably back in kind of late 2018, where we were seeing within agencies this huge trend that they were moving out of the office, some were moving into shared workspaces, and then a lot were moving home. And we started noticing this, and we actually started working in 2019 with a customer called Fullscreen, who are based in LA. And the really interesting thing about that business was they had 500 creatives working for them, and the whole business was set up to work remotely. Their concept from the founder was that creativity wasn't about bricks and mortar. And I think that's been a really interesting kind of insight into what all of us have been discovering over the last 12 months. But most importantly, it was something that we were looking at and trying to design for as we saw more and more agencies, more and more creatives working flexibly. And that was something we actually spoke about with Adobe at their big conference at the end of 2019. So we'd already been planning what we could do to support that. And what that really means in the kind of businesses that we work with is that, there's a diversity of talent. So it means that you can choose the best talent from wherever you are, and then use the tools that help you to bring that together. And that's actually what we've been doing, is spending a lot of time developing the features into Dropbox that help you to, work with large video files. So earlier last year, we saw what was going on, and we extended the amount of video that you can play back up to 150 gig with our Creative Tools add-on. So we started looking at people having trouble at home with bandwidth. How can we help them out? Well, we can help you by skipping the download, and you can then stream that. That's a really easy way. We were then working with other agencies who were saying, look, we're having trouble getting content from creators into our advertising campaigns. So we've actually built this feature called File Request, and it works really well on mobile. So for those agencies, they were just sending a file request to those creators who are now having to shoot all their content on their iPhone Pros. And then it just gets sucked straight into the edit folder. And they were like, wow, this is a really interesting way of doing it. So we've been looking really hard about how not just agencies have been evolving over time, but how they're thinking differently about how technology allows them to deliver campaigns faster, to get talent from anywhere, and to really deliver that. And that was where our partnership with Clipchamp came in, because we were really looking at what are tools that can help you to continue working in the cloud. And that's a great partnership that we got with Clipchamp, where you can take your content from Dropbox, put it straight into Clipchamp, and they help to make that editing process really simple.
That's great. And for all those online, I'd love to hear some of the challenges. Andy's already put forward a couple that they recognised over the last couple of years. But any challenges that you're seeing in this space, feel free to pop through a question, and we can definitely look to discuss it. Alex, from your side of things, what are your observations in what you're seeing, and how people are sort of using Clipchamp creatively as well?
Yeah, I think if you take a step back, the 2000s were all about the emergence of digital video. Then the 2010s were all about the sort of, the consumer space shifting at scale towards videos. Like, these days, you don't read anything anymore, whether you want to cook something, repair, learn anything, you go straight to some video platform, right? The 2020s will be when the business space has to shift at scale from text to video, right? So if COVID's done one thing, it's accelerated the whole thing. And what platforms like ours are really interesting in that regard is that, there's two trends. I mean, people have to shift to video. Then the other thing is COVID introduced budget pressure. So what creative agencies see more and more is that people come in and they want the same kind of creative solution, but for a lower price tag. What that pushes is basically, potentially less trained people, easier tools, easier platforms that they can work with. I think the other trend that we're seeing is that there's a lot more short-lived video content out there, right?
Yeah.
This was about professional video production. You put it out there and it just lives there for some time. These days you produce a video, it gets watched by 1,000 people, it lives for a few days online or in social media, and then you produce the next. So the role of creative agencies is also partially changing in that they're not producing these high quality videos anymore. And 10 or 15 or 20 of them, but potentially a template. And then give it to corporations, and they can instantiate those templates and produce that short-lived content themselves in a very similar way to how Word templates existed in the past. So we see some seismic shifts in how video is being created and the role of creative agencies in that regard, right? But it's a very exciting one for for both agencies as well as technology providers like ours.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's a dynamic shift as well between the relationships involved. And Alex, just very briefly, you mentioned that the 2020s is probably looking like that time for organizations to recognize a video-first approach. From an ANZ perspective, what's our adoption like? Do you think that we're sort of, on the innovative side of this transition, or are we still sort of taking text first and thinking more, larger video productions and less of them, or what are you seeing?
I think so. Australia is not our biggest market, or ANZ, right? Having said that, I think it's more by industry. So you find some very creative, or even like in certain industries, some very creative players that adopt technology and digital much faster than others. That's probably worldwide like that, but here in Australia we do have large government, we have government agencies where we have more than 4,000 users. So, and that happens organically. It's not because we ask them to use us, right? So there's certainly, like, even in traditional sectors such as government, a push into better solutions, and but we see certainly other markets in the US where the education sector is just basically shifting to online video editing at scale, and so there's in certain sectors others might be ahead, but overall I think we're doing pretty good down here.
Yeah, awesome. Sometimes I feel like it's also being able to identify the tools to enable this kind of innovation and to enable this thinking. How can I do something differently? So it's a good segue. Do you want to maybe just show us how Clipchamp works and that collaboration piece with Dropbox?
Easy. Let me share my screen here.
I'll let you know when it's up.
Yeah. Can you guys see my screen? Is it coming up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. So when you log into Clipchamp, you see your projects. If you want to create a video, it's a really you end up in a video editor. So say in this particular case, we want to do a San Francisco recruiting video, right? So we've recently established a team in the US, and now we want to go more into San Francisco. I can't at the moment. We do have a webcam recorder, but I can't do webcam because the browser's blocked with a webinar. I therefore created a short call to action just about half an hour ago, and I've also chipped in a bunch of other little things that I can pull straight from my Dropbox folder. So we can open my Dropbox straight in Clipchamp, select it, we chuck it into the platform. It's a really seamless, fast process. So the webcam that I've created before, I can chuck into my timeline. I can play, come join us at Clipchamp in San Francisco. So all of this is happening in the browser. You don't have to install anything. You just go to clipchamp.com and can get started. So I've done my little call to action. I'm talking a little bit about a fun team. You'll be building cool stuff, and it's an incredible city to live in. So we're talking about three things. It's a fun team. Well, let's show the team, right? So here we go. We have a little video of the team, so we can sort of maybe just make this a little bit faster, so that it gives us a little bit of a nice effect here. We can also cut things, cut unnecessary sections off. I'm talking about the fact that we build cool things here. So let's just show cool things. It's an incredible city to live in. So this is a bit late, but we can then sort of just multi-select them, shift stuff across. Again, cut as we want to cut off stuff. And now it's a cool city. Well, I don't have footage of the city. So fortunately, we do have a stock video library in here. So we go San Francisco, and we find a bunch of cool videos. So say this one, we can add it. It goes straight to the timeline. While it's downloading, we can even already start the cutting process, check out stuff. And maybe we want to put some background music in as well. So let's look for something happy, because recruiting is always a happy occasion. And we can sort of just hover over those tracks and sort of get immediately a feeling for what it is. So say we find this one is reasonably happy, we chuck it straight into our timeline. It's meant to be a background track, so maybe it's a bit loud. We can sort of adjust the audio. adjust the audio down to just, like maybe a few percentage points or something. And last but not least, we want, our brand in here, so we can sort of, just chuck a Clipchamp logo into it. So say, we put it across the entire video here, and we see our branding just up here in the top right corner. At the very end, we might want a call to action where we say, okay, well, it's a recruiting video, so let's tell people that they're supposed to apply. So in this particular case, again, we chuck in our little logo, say apply today, and clipchamp.com/careers. And that's it. So this is our video, right? Now we can apply today. We can play it all. If we're happy, we can just cut off the rest that we're not interested in anymore. Our full video is now ready to be played in the editor. We can sort of come join us at Clipchamp in San Francisco. It's a fun team. You'll be building cool stuff, and it's an incredible city to live in. Apply today. So, and once we're done, we can sort of, just export it. So say at this stage, I'm just really interested in, in a fast export, drive resolution. We can then sort of, chuck that video straight back onto our Dropbox. So say SF Recruiting, we save it. So we see here how the video builds. If we want to do something else, we can put it on a mini export tracker, shift tabs, and then sort of see in the background, how it's being produced. We can also go back to Clipchamp and sort of, see where it's at. And once we're done, we can go back to Dropbox, and we will see, we have to probably reload. Did we do anything wrong here? I need to hit save.
Gotta hit save.
Sorry. So if I had done this before, obviously it would have gone a bit faster. And here's our San Fran recruiting video. So it's really simple from our perspective how we can use Dropbox, including file requests that Andy was mentioning before, as a collaborative vault where we can chuck in all of our media files, and then people can go off and create those really simple videos. We can play them in our entire videos here. Come join us at Clipchamp in San Francisco. It's a fun team. You'll be building cool stuff, and it's an incredible city to live in. Apply today. So really, really simple. And again, this stuff can be short-lived. We don't need to, we don't need a monster professional production here. It can be something that lives on social media for about a week, and next week we might be producing something completely different, right? So it doesn't take long. It's a pretty simple process, and that's essentially what we want people to think about, is to sort of, not just like, it doesn't have to be super polished, right? It shows a human side of your business.
Yep.
And, people just, go in, do it, and sort of, just start churning out that stuff, and people will love you for it.
Yeah, that's great, Alex. It's quite remarkable, actually, that you produced that video during the session. So I'm sure there's a lot of people online that are a bit shocked by that. Might require some conversations with their internal and external teams about how to make that happen, because that's great. We all know, particularly when recruiting, there is a lot of text involved. So thanks so much for that. On that point, I did mention, that I'm sure that's a bit of a disruptive approach, particularly if you're from an organisation that might be well established. I'll put up another poll just around the challenges that you're seeing in this space. So, and it's really business challenges. So particularly with producing content, what are some of the challenges that you're finding? So reducing cost of production, obviously managing the large files of video and social media production, getting to sign off with clients faster. So having that ability to be able to get sign off and get that continuity going, as well as internal review and production. So I'd imagine that sometimes with videos being made that quickly, 98% of it sits in the internal review side. So we'll see what comes up. 50% reducing cost. Would that be the feel that you get, Alex and Andy, in the market?
I think so. I think a lot of people are looking at how can they do things smarter. How can they do things faster? And if you can reduce the amount of time it takes to produce content, you can use your staff on the next production. Especially if you're an agency, you can move them on to the next into the next project, and that just means kind of better efficient use of staff, better management of costs.
Yeah, brilliant. I'll let that one run, and if anybody has any observations on that whole piece, pop it in the chat. We've already had a good question come through. But Beck, thanks so much for waiting so patiently. And it's great to have an end user online to add a little bit of context to the tech color, because there's always great tech color with new and shiny things, but it's always good to see how they're being used. So thanks so much for joining us. We might kick off with a bit of a show reel just to have a look at some video. Play that one. It's a great finish there, Beck.
and the GIF was from Clipchamp too. So I just wanted to show. I made that show reel yesterday. It took me 2 hours. That's pulling that together, and it was really so easy. I've actually haven't put a show reel together for a very long time, so I've been avoiding it. So that was perfect.
Got you back on the tools. It's so easy.
Oh no, I'm well and truly on the tools.
So yeah, on that note, do you want to tell us a little bit about working with Clipchamp and Dropbox, and maybe like the challenges that you faced and why you sort of chose to move in that direction?
Sure. So my background is television. Broadcast and producing and directing. That's 30 years ago. Started agency 18 years ago, and obviously video has always been a massive part of my life. So that was one of the main services of my agency, along with PR and marketing at the time. And then fast forward, digital, social. So I felt like I was already in a position where I understood the process of producing and creating content. I just had to adjust, obviously, the different channels that it was going to be going on. The tools, I've always, generally for bigger projects where there were always bigger budgets with corporates and so forth, I would outsource to production companies, with their editing suites and so forth. As the budgets crunched, I brought it in-house, and it's generally the senior team that know how to edit on Final Cut Pro. So that, again, it was sort of driven by, I guess, cost cutting, that, if we can bring it in-house, why not? And then since we've adopted our services in social and digital, creating content. I've got a lot of creative young team, but they don't have that knowledge of how to, use those more sophisticated edit suites. So it was a case of, well, this is a wonderful solution because they've got the creative, and then they just, they can just adapt straight away. They can adapt to anything online and any new tool. So it's just been a really great way to get the young team just to churn things out. Also, quoting wise and budget wise, it's you're more profitable because you're sort of you're cutting costs by not outsourcing, and
Yeah, that's great. And just on that, to Alex and Andy's point, does it would give you that enablement to recognize that shift, that more smaller videos are being created, and give you that sort of speed in production on that side of things?
Yeah, for sure. Was that to me? Yeah, so yeah, for sure. Speed in production. So we can have a morning meeting, go, okay, let's produce a video on this. This is topical, because we sort of have clients that are very, I guess, daily topics and newsworthy. So it's a case of, okay, let's jump on that, churn it out. And like you said, and from my show reel, the quality is all the same. It's whether we've shot it on a iPhone, which shot in 4K, to what or edit it on Clipchamp or edit it in a suite.
Yeah, brilliant. And let's talk about the flexibility piece, and doing more with less and that sort of thing. What type of flexibility has it brought to your business, and has it changed the culture of your approach to servicing clients?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just if I could talk about the integration with Dropbox and just that collaboration, and I totally understand when Andy said the downloading, when we have to used to upload and download massive files. It's seriously even 2 years ago, you could be sitting there for 2 hours, but now just the ease of sharing and people commenting and getting feedback at a quicker pace just makes that, because social is that, get straight on it, push it out. So it does allow you to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And you also talked about sort of setting up templates in advance, and that's definitely something that's becoming more prominent. How does this sort of work with client projects, and how do you integrate this?
Well, I guess we can, we, as a marketing agency, we know their brand, so we set up templates, and then, depending on the campaign, we sort of put the theme in. But one thing I've just adapted it to recently is a festival that's coming up that generally, you do highlights packages and you're shooting on the day and all this sort of stuff, and it's usually big budget. Well, the budget's been crunched so much that I go, what's my solution here? Because I want to be able to obviously do this job. And so I'm going to create a template in Clipchamp, pre-approved, so I can just drop in the vision for daily highlights for social. So, and that's the cost effectiveness of that is huge.
Yeah, brilliant. In that, you're also talking about sort of the way the workflow changes and changing the way that you work. And I guess for businesses that are worried about changing the way that they work, and maybe they've used certain tools for a while, there might be that leap. What motivated you to change, and besides obviously the fiscal outcomes, what would have been some of the other outcomes?
I think giving young creators autonomy is really important, because they're creatives. They have it all here, and to rely on someone else to push it out, like that's been great for culture. Also, just it has a place. There's always going to be, you'll need your Final Cut Pros for bigger, more complicated edits, when particularly there's maybe the soundtracks and audio, like there's a lot more audio complication in it, but there's always going to be a place for that. But Clipchamp definitely fills that lovely space that we've been looking for.
That's brilliant. It's remarkable. And just to be able to work your way backwards, and take a templated approach and kind of cut out a lot of the middlemans in sort of shipping content Sounds very exciting, and I'm sure it's very exciting to everybody online. So we'll bring everyone together. We've had some good questions. I'd encourage some more questions. I will dangle the carrot and say we've got that restaurant voucher. You can get out and enjoy the final moments of sun. Beck, I'll start with you, sort of given all the journey that you've come through and how you've been using Clipchamp and Dropbox. So what are some of the core editing capabilities that your team sort of has, like as a sort of inbuilt skill set now?
Well, there's some of the juniors I've trained on the more complicated ones, but in saying that, the rest of the young team, I just don't have time to train people. And also it's the young people, like I said, are very savvy. It just takes an hour to learn how to use it. So it's just a great solution for, like I mentioned before, young creatives working autonomously and putting what they've created in their head into video just like that.
Yeah, and just giving them that empowerment. Alex, did you have something to add to that? Or
yeah, I think there's something very interesting in what Beck said, because there's basically two opportunities for agencies here. The one is supporting. So video has been, up until just very recently, a professional creative domain. And what Beck's talking about is to sort of support creatives that aren't professionals. So with platforms like ours, you can basically now go in and say, okay, well, as long as you're creative, right, you can pump out those social media campaigns for someone else who doesn't want to do this, right? So maybe they're not creative, but you have some of those young motivated people that aren't professional, but they can now do it. The other thing that's a really interesting piece for agencies here is to use professionals that they already have and support non-creatives through templates. So instead of taking the whole video production in-house, agencies can now focus on just providing an awesome template, giving it to people who have absolutely no idea about video editing and they aren't creative. But as long as I follow the steps and the structure, I don't know what an establishment shot is, right? But in the video that I have, it tells me what an establishment shot is, and it sits there for about 2 seconds. All I need to do is replace that clip. And so I think it's like, taking the professionals, supporting non-creatives, and then taking creatives that aren't professional and giving them easy tools. That's two distinct opportunities here for agencies that I see, and that are certainly very exciting going forward.
Yeah, awesome, Alex. And I'll bring you in here, Andy, because you're obviously seeing this space, with a lot of experience as well. So coming from a large organization in Dropbox and the BBC, like what skill sets are you observing are crossing over as being cornerstone digital skills for emerging leaders? What are the production side of the team sort of letting go on that front?
I think it's a couple of different things. I think, there's firstly, for any leaders, the most important thing is to obviously have awareness of the changing platforms. Things have evolved a lot as social media networks have evolved. We have just such a faster turnaround of content, and audiences want different kinds of engagement models depending on how you're going to interact with them. I think Alex's point about that whole approach to template-driven production, I think, is really important. The whole growth of short-form video is really important. And for that emerging leader, it's really important to immerse yourself, actually, in the ways that not just your business is communicating and has to communicate, but how your competitors do that as well. Because that's kind of the most important thing, is to see like what's really working, figure out what's working, and then fit that into your own style. And I think, at the core of all of this is flexibility. And that's what's really been tested over the last 12 months. And I think, we've seen, certainly on our platform, a huge growth in video. Now, clearly that's because people are working from home. Beck said, that whole sync engine approach of being able to make it much easier to share content, do it at, speeds that are much better now than they've ever been before, and to get that feedback. And I think that's the interesting thing for any leaders is taking that second look at your workflow. Are the tools that you're using really helping your teams to be successful? How can you optimize things? So you can use tools that can create amazing edits. And Alex has shown us that really, really quickly now. So maybe the challenge then is, how fast can I get to sign off? Can I use commenting? Can I use that to share and anyone can get access on their mobile? How can I think about how I need to get that editorial agreed to get it out there? And that's what we have to be thinking about more, is about what are the parts of the process that are very human intensive that we can speed up, and how can we enable people to do that? And that's where in our product, we're investing very heavily. We've launched something called Creative Tools, which actually helps those things to happen. And I think that's where businesses can really start optimizing. And I'm really excited where this space is going. You know, it's great to see where over the last 3 years, Alex's products come to. You know, we've been pushing just as hard over that period. So the next 18 months are going to be a really exciting space for media creators to work together.
Yeah, awesome. It was interesting to hear Beck talk about the narrative of you know, originally moving you know, production to a production team, and talk about the costs involved and so on and so forth, and kind of challenging that piece. You've all challenged it around sort of what digital skill sets creatives and executives can have as a whole. So I'll probably start with you, Alex, but how important in your view are these digital skills for emerging business leaders as a whole?
Yeah, I guess it's so, you know, similar to what we've I think video editing is one of the more complex domains that you can sort of, you know, try to make simpler and bring into a browser-based environment. But the same things happen for accounting software, for all sorts of, you know, collaborative discussions, for like, you know, you look at the Google Suite, or even, you know, Dropbox paper, you know, where you have this real-time collaboration around editing. That stuff is basically, you know, just commoditized. And a lot of people, you know, what you tended to do in the past where you needed like help, external help or internal help, you can now do yourself. So, you know, when we created Clipchamp, we did basically everything ourselves, you know, and I'm not sure if that's advisable. So I want but, you know, but you can the tools and the platforms are so easy that you can basically run your entire business yourself. We still don't have IT. We didn't have finance up until we had about 40 people in the business, right? So there's, you know, if you are digitally savvy, you can basically just, you know, just do the whole thing yourself these days. And, you know, what we always like, Dropbox for us is an indispensable tool, for instance, right? Because all the external data sharing that we're doing, the control that it gives you for, you know, to see like who accessed data, to be able to put secure links in place and stuff like that, all of this stuff. You know, if you're savvy, if you can use that, then, you know, you just like, there's so many workflows that you can support with it. And again, yeah, you just got to find those tools and use them, but it's never been simpler than today.
Yeah, awesome. We are hitting time, so I better get to some audience questions. We've had some good ones come through. Ben's asked, so how do you go about driving buy-in from non-creative executives to get involved in video production? So I'll open that up to the floor if anyone would like to take it.
So that was driving executives to get involved in. Was that non-high end? Was that? Yeah,
just I believe it's just from a video production to get involved in creating videos as opposed to maybe text or.
Yeah, I think you know, you have to look at how the growth of communications changed. You know, the growth of Instagram video, the growth of TikTok, and how consumers really, you know, over the last 12 months have changed their whole buying and interacting with business approach to being much more online. And, you know, the majority of businesses have seen that and just switched. And they've known that to get the message out there, it has to be richer, whether that is, you know, stills with animation or beautifully made videos that can tell the story of your business and how people can engage with it. I think it's become even more important to have that personalized message. And sometimes that doesn't mean it has to be, you know, a beautiful 4K high-end production. It can, as long as the story's right and it feels right for the brand, it can be, you know, as scrappy as you like. And I think that's the really interesting thing, is that you can choose that production approach and you can choose the tools to help you to get there. The most beautiful film can be made on my smartphone as long as I can tell an amazing story. And I've now got the tools that have been massively commoditized and democratized to enable me to do that.
Yeah, awesome.
I think it's also about educating those executives about the benefits. And a lot of the time the resistance I find is because they don't understand the processes. They probably already have a preconceived idea the budgets are going to be huge. So I think it's all about the education piece around them and sort of holding their hand and taking them through the journey, and sort of, you know, obviously they're all about budget and return on investment.
Amanda, thank you so much. You've brought in the word we haven't talked about, which is security. So thanks for this question. Some of our clients are government bodies or corporates who need security protocols when it comes to approval and content sharing. How important is user security for both Dropbox and Clipchamp? I'll start with you, Alex.
Yeah, so we're like so initially I said like we're the world's first and only in-browser video editing platform, which basically means like you do everything in browser. Your assets, you know, it's technically, and I'll spare you the details, but your assets are on your computer in your browser, not in the cloud in some backend. So basically, part of why the US education sector likes us so much is there's a whole lot of school kids that put videos together that aren't on premium plans. We never even get to see their assets. We have no idea, like, you know, it's the safest and securest solution that you can possibly have. In addition to that, you know, we're moving closer and closer to, you know, aligning our security practices with SOC 2. We're putting GDPR safeguards in place that obviously we can apply to all sorts of different users, you know, not only in the EU, but are we at the moment fit for a big government contract? Probably not yet. It's a thing that we're working on. We're just like too early in our cycle to sort of, you know, have this, have it all locked down to the extent that you can sort of go like in Australia, you need data hosted in Australia and stuff like that. We're a bit too early on that, but we're working on that. And later this year, there's a lot of that stuff hitting.
Yeah, awesome. Super important. There's a great question from Tennille, and it's for yourself, Becca. How have you found the engagement with Clipchamp videos compared to high-end produced videos? And there's a supplementary question in there about the, you know, is there now a trend towards making, you know, more real videos? Oh, sorry, you're on mute, Beck. We almost got there.
It's interesting. The high-end videos are generally used for certain channels. So it's either it's broadcast, it's you know, it could be like a big event where it's, you know, on the big screen. So or they're actually even internal videos for stakeholders. So that it's a completely different channel and audience that the high-end videos we're producing for now to the more, you know, and I wouldn't call it even low end. It's the quality is still the same. It's just shortcuts and budget restrictions. You can still be creative. Quality's there. Turnaround's quicker. And we generally use it for social, digital, or people, you know, or people's bios, or the channels we just choose when we use Clipchamp for.
Yeah, awesome.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'll probably ask. I'll put it out to Andy and Alex. Is there a trend around, you know, making less polished videos? A question came through around that, and any observations around, you know, how powerful they can be versus, you know, bigger.
Can I just say they're not less polished.
No.
I actually, the only difference really is it's you can choose to use stock image. You can shoot your own stuff. The graphic elements are great. You can import your own music. It's just a quicker, more basic editing tool for those creatives that want to really push things out quickly. But the quality is definitely there, and yeah, because I would not want to think that I push out substandard quality product for my clients.
Spot on.
No, and I think that's right. Is that all of this, you know, as Alex showed earlier, the ability to get stock footage really quickly and easily just pulls everything up. It makes it so easy to make a really great professional looking video really easily. I think the difference is like this idea of Scrappy being fast but not being poor quality, and I think that's right. It's like people are just pulling together tools like, you know, my phone and some editors online to do things. That means I can just throw it together quickly. But actually, I've got an incredibly high resolution camera. So it doesn't mean the quality is going to be good. As long as I'm framing it right and I'm thinking about it right, it's great. And I think that's where the change has really come in, is that you don't have to hire that, you know, 8K camera it takes 2 people to carry and needs like a load of power and loads of lights. You can just pick up a camera and make it happen on your phone. And I think that's the really interesting change that we've seen, and why we're seeing this explosion of video is because it's just got easier, and the tools have made it easier to even help you to frame. to help you to do things, and then to bring in beautiful shots. So I don't have to get on a plane to fly to, to Sydney to get that shot of the Opera House. I can just search in Clipchamp in 2 seconds and it's there. And that's how I can make things a lot more polished quickly.
Yeah, fully second that here as well. I think the trend is less so lower quality and scrappy. It's more authentic content.
Yeah.
Quality still stacks up, right? So you still have your resolution, your bitrate, and all this stuff in place. The point is more like, if the whole, in the past, it was very often the keyword was professional. We have to look professional. We have to appear professional. And I think that's slowly but steadily shifting towards more authentic content, right? Where you serve, there's a human side to this business, right? And so it's people actually getting in front of, so even if you do self-recording on your mobile phone, right? So, and you put it into a video, it's that kind of thing that people want to see more. They want to see that they're dealing with real people. And I don't know, this whole generation, TikTok, etc., probably contributed to that we're more used now to have this more authentic content. Yeah, but people don't want to compromise on quality. You don't want to look at a pixelated movie, right? So to Beck's point, the quality is the same. It's just like the style of video has changed. The video lengths have changed, right? So in the past, you looked at advertising spots in the 1950s and 60s. They were 5 minutes in length. Like, no one has the attention span anymore to go to a 5-minute advertising spot, right? It's purely impossible for us, right? And the average video length on YouTube, or the average watch time, is going down and down and down, right? Ads, YouTube kind of put that 5-second thing in, right? That's a standard now. You have to put, like, if you can't get your message across in 5 seconds, then you've pretty much lost. And those are the trends that we're seeing. Like, videos get shorter and they get more authentic, but they don't get lower in quality.
Yeah, the shows probably go for 5 minutes. I'd just like to say we've missed out on a lot of questions, so I do apologise. But what I'll get, I'll make sure the team reaches out and connects with everyone. Big thanks for all the questions. Actually, I have to give away the best question prize. There's 2 upvotes for Ben and Amanda, and I'm going to give it to Amanda because I think security is a conversation pretty much in every area of technology and business at the moment. So thanks for bringing that up and enjoy that voucher. Everyone online, I hope you took something out of this. It was great to see the technology, see its application, have a talk about how it changes culture and the ability to move faster, as well as hear about these exciting trends in this space, which is only going to get more and more obvious as this decade wears on. Andy, do you have some final comments?
Look, just thank you ever so much for all those amazing questions. We're really excited by the partnership with Clipchamp, and also to share what we're doing with really making it easier to work with creative projects on Dropbox. So if you'd like to find out more, do get in touch with the team. I think you'll be emailed some details on how you can do that. So we'd love to help you out.
Yeah. Alex, any final closeouts there?
Same here. The Dropbox relationship is incredibly valuable for us, and we're extremely excited about this. We know that creatives are a big focus for Dropbox, and they're obviously a big focus for us as well. Together, as we've seen, how companies are using Dropbox as a very collaborative tool, for media collections and assets that can work together with us is incredibly interesting to see. So we're very much looking forward to intensifying that collaboration.
And Beck, a massive thanks for sharing your story. And we really appreciate it. And it's so good to see the technology in action and see that video. Did you have any final remarks on the content?
Yeah, look, I find it's a really exciting time in the space I work in, particularly with companies like Dropbox and Clipchamp that are open to our feedback as well. So we're sort of they're involving us, which is great because, they want to produce the best product and we want to produce the best product.
Yeah, great. It's all around collaboration. On that note, guys, this will be a recording. I'd encourage everyone to circulate it amongst the team, get the discussions going internally and externally through reaching out to the team. Try some new technologies and start to think differently. So a big thanks for your contributions, guys, and thanks to everyone online. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you later.
Thanks a lot.
See you.